Sorry, I forgot to turn my microphone on. You didn't tell me you'd been into space since our last show.
That was an awesome, and that was fantastic.
Thank you, my friend. I'm glad to do it for you, my friend, because you're an awesome guest. Folks, we're excited to be here for a live show, May 26, 2026, with the legendary Harry Cooper of SharkHunters, sharkhunters.com. I'm a proud member of SharkHunters, and we'll tell you how you can be during this program. We're going to take a deep dive into history, and we want to give you a few extra minutes to get in. We've got a live chat room, by the way. Harry's also got email, so if any of you out there have any questions for Harry tonight or want him to go into any other subject material than what we're going to cover, just send him an email and we'll give him those questions for you. But Harry, how you been, my friend?
Working. Our 74th went live a week and a half ago.
Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's
That's
all
awesome.
pure history.
I know you've been working because that number keeps going up. The number of books that y'all put out of history, you're not going to find in some of the best museums in the world. I mean, they got photographs nobody's else got. I mean, you've got a massive archive, and you're putting it to good use, getting the stuff out there to people so they can read it.
Yeah.
Really museum-quality books.
We've got more than 303,000
4
photographs
books.
in file.
Folks, if I have some burps tonight, please forgive me. Harry, I'm still in Bali. I've been here 10 years now. I can't believe it. And so sometimes...
be nice. Much like it.
Well, you know what? I do. I'm a little bit of an adventurer. And I get bored if I'm in one place too long, but I'm amazed I've been here 10 years.
Yeah.
I think I've got a record. Longest I've been in one place.
Well, yeah,
Of
I've
course.
been here in Florida 36 years now, but
Wow.
I'm in Germany, Austria twice a year. I'm in South America almost every year.
Yes.
So, okay, I've got a good base here, a great wife, and it's a beautiful place. But I get to go where, and that's why our books are the only books on this history that are worth a damn. I believe in the ground, not butts in a chair in the public library, reading what 27 other people have said about a subject, and they've never been there. Each guy who writing a book based on 27 other books comes up with the same baloney. I'm there, and thank God I know the great warriors, so many German U-boat commanders, Luftwaffe flyboys, American pilots, highly decorated American submarine commander ever in history, Admiral Fluckey, was a guest in my home. I visited him in Annapolis. Kretschmer, the greatest submarine commander of the war, said that I was a member of his family and I had a sleeping room
Wow.
in the Kretschmer home. These were people, and they knew when they found out that I was not a Nazi or a Nazi hunter, they opened up everything. They met other U-boat skippers and officers and crew, and so many were members of SharkHunters. Ronald Reagan was a member of passing.
Oh, that's right.
And
Wow.
yeah, and the chief of the Soviet Navy was a member and a friend, Admiral Cherny, last year. I met Vladimir Putin, spent 15 minutes talking with him. He's not a madman. He's a Russian patriot.
That's amazing. You've met some people out there. Whoa.
I've been lucky. Incidentally, this is only
Folks,
water.
well, I just want to tell you, this is a coffee show. I am drinking iced tea. I'll probably go to coffee here in a bit. And look, somebody brought me some brownies, so would y'all mind if I eat a few of these while we're here tonight? I may need them.
What time is it there in Bali?
So I'm plus 12 hours ahead of you on East Coast, so it's 10:07 a.m. 10:07 p.m. here.
PM, yeah, because it's AM
Yes, sir.
here, 10:08. Okay.
So I synchronize everything to East Coast time. So if we give out an East Coast time,
Best.
a time for a show, East Coast. So y'all
Right.
just synchronize. But this is a great time to do a show because 7 a.m. in California and 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 p.m. in the afternoon in Germany for anybody tuning in Europe.
Yeah, 6 hours plus.
Yeah, so y'all can tune in, and I hope
Members,
y'all will.
Leslie Regier is over there in Germany right now, and I'm hoping she's tuned in. Leslie, I hope you're there.
Absolutely. Welcome aboard, folks. And if you're here for the first time, we're glad to have you. And all the regulars, welcome back. We're going to do a deep dive in history and talk about two of Harry's books today. You've got one on space and one on that broke the story on Hitler in Argentina.
Right. This is a big one. This is a 8.5 by 11, and
Wow.
some of the stuff that's in this book, published some years ago, is just now popping up in the news. They're finally admitting, yes, there are out there people, whatever's. We're not alone, and it was all in that book, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. But all the information book was given to me by Clark McClellan, who was a member of SharkHunters and a good friend.
Yes.
He was 35 years an engineer with NASA, and he was a spacecraft operator, which meant he could do anything on the ground that the astronauts would do in space in the capsule. And he started letting people know that he was passing this information on, and he got fired like that. 35 years fired, no severance, no retirement, and his
Wow.
social security disappeared. He lived about 40 miles from me. I had never been to his place. He and I would always meet in this great Bavarian restaurant, the town of Mount Dora. And so one time, this was a few years ago, he went dark. I couldn't contact. I just drove to his address, followed my GPS, and it was an old beat up house trailer in a 1950s style trailer park, and he wasn't there. So I found out he had been removed to an assisted living facility because everything went wrong. He had gangrene in his leg. They had to take off his leg, and they moved him to an facility in Pennsylvania, which is where his daughters were. So I flew up there and talked to him, and he said it was a warehouse for die, and he kept praying for death because he was in a lot of pain. And he got his wish. A couple months later, he died. He talked too much, and there's stuff in this book that they're still not releasing. But it's fact. I mean, we'll get into that, but he saw the bodies, he saw the wreckage. Roswell, we know, everybody knows about Roswell, the crash out there. But that was not the first. There were 2 or 3 prior to that. And he was on scene. He saw the bodies, and I think he even took a piece of the wreckage home with him because he had a lot of interesting stuff in a storage locker.
Wow.
Made it as soon as he died and took off with everything. But he also made another mistake. He put in writing that Obama was a traitor. Put it in writing.
Well, he said the truth.
Yeah, I understand that, but if you got a government and you rocked the boat like that, but he was he was an honest man, and he didn't back down to anything, and it cost him.
I'm glad you got an opportunity to meet him, and you'll released his book because a lot of stuff never sees the light of day. If the powers that be have their way,
yeah, they keep things from us for our good because we're too stupid to be able to handle the truth and the facts. But the point is, we're not that damn dumb. Maybe some people are.
no.
The average person, if they come out and reveal everything they know, there's panic in the streets. The average guy is going to say to himself, "Oh, geez, what do you think about that, honey? By the way, what's for dinner tonight?" And grab me a beer out of the fridge. Nobody's going to lose any. Nobody's going to go nuts over it. It's been happening.
That's right.
Geez, way back when I was in the Air Force, 1957 until that's when the Project Book began, where anybody who saw anything in space would report it to the authorities. They'd call the local or the nearest Air Force base, and they would always send out two guys. One was a captain, the other was, and they'd go to the house allegedly to take down information, but then it was to convince the person that what they really saw was a weather balloon. We had a lot of crappy weather balloons. They all got loose and they all ran away. And that's what people saw, doing 17th an hour up in outer space, side by side with some of our space shots. You'll see pictures of that today in this show. Almost every single one of our shots had a couple of visitors. Oh my goodness, somebody, let's see. Okay, that club checking in, but not one of our viewers. But anyhow, people get into positions of authority. Let me post my words real carefully. And they feel they're the only ones smart enough to handle whatever they've learned, and the rest of us are stump stupid and need to be protected. Q puts me into the genius range. Tell me what's going on. I can live with it. You're a smart guy. Tell you what's going on. You're not going to panic.
No, sir. We deserve the truth, and that's what I love about SharkHunters.com. You have been boots on the ground since the 80s, correct? When you first came across that
February of 1983.
Place on the hill? 83, man.
Yeah, the place in the Bahamas. Let me move this to where I can see who's emailing me a little. There we go. The emails, SharkHunters at SharkHunters.com.
Absolutely.
I was an executive with a big corporation. I was also a professional race car driver. I spent Sunday afternoons at 180 miles an hour on the super speedways. And one day, everything went upside down. I blew the engine in my race car. I was in the lead group, Bobby Unser, Al Unser. Blew the engine in my race car going home to Chicago where I lived. I blew the engine in my hauler truck. I was a driver, apparently not a good engineer. Got back to my company and found that my boss had left, and a guy I couldn't get along with was suddenly my superior. So I told him, I'm done. Color me gone. I bought a 30-foot sailing yacht, put an ad in Cruising World for female crew. This was the 70s. What do you want? And I got over 200 replies. So I sent a real picture and a real letter. There was no email back in them days. And I said, where we're going, et cetera, et cetera. Pictures of me, pictures of the boat. Two things that are absolutely firm. One, if you do drugs, don't bother answering this letter. Two, if you think you're going to sleep on this cruise, don't bother answering this letter. I got over 150 replies, and I left with a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead, and it cooks. And the best part about it, in the Bahamas, no stress whatsoever. The water's like 8 deep. It's warm like your bathtub. It's crystal clear.
Wow.
And there's no pressure. And we're laying at anchor in some beautiful island, and you can see another miles away, another beautiful island, and you figure, I got to go there tomorrow, next week, maybe next month. So there's no pressure. And then we came up to Darby Island in the lower Exuma chain, and it had the ruins of a mansion on a hilltop. And so I asked the old caretaker what was the story, and he said that they had supplied Germans with fresh water and food during the war. My first thought, of course, was those dirty Nazis, because I was a kid during the war years, and we were told Germans, them was these horrible people. And so, okay, I put it in the back of my head because I had three more important things to think about, which was Karen, Lynette, and Debbie. So, one by one, they went back. Others came to join me. It was a great 8 years in my life living. Maybe that's why I'm in such great shape. But closing in on candles on my birthday cake next couple of months. But I came back. I was flat broke. I had $5 to my name. Put my boat in a marina in Florida, and here I am thumbing my way up Highway 1, former vice president of a company in Chicago. I thumbed my way up, back, mooched a room from my sister, went back to work, and started to research. And I found this was all great propaganda. It was absolutely false. They did not machine gun people in the water at all. They helped the people they sank. And as Captain Hardagan told me, their mission was to sink ships, not to kill men. So I started to research, and I found out these guys, well, first off, they were not Nazis. They were not allowed to belong to any political party. They, up until July of 44, when Tom Cruise tried to blow up Adolf Hitler, this was their salute, always. Only after the assassination attempt did they have a propaganda guy on board who insisted they had to do the right arm in the air, which was not the Nazi salute, not the Hitler salute. That was the old Roman salute. I love the Romans. 2,000 years ago, during the Roman Empire, when two men met, they would do that to show there was no weapon in their hand. That's what that was about. And so I thought I had something stuck on my arm. They were loyal Germans. And until the so-called Laconia incident, when they were no longer allowed to stay on the surface to help anybody, frequently when they'd sink a ship, they would come alongside the lifeboats and give whatever help they could. One of our members, Captain Peter Chalamedos, was a merchant skipper of an American ship sunk in the Atlantic by a German U-boat. They were all bobbing around in their lifeboat, 30, 40 guys in the lifeboat, big boats. And the U-boat came up alongside, and the U-boat skipper shouted down and asked if anybody needed medical help. They were going to help them. But they didn't need medical help, so the U-boat skipper gave them a compass and told them what direction to head for safety to reach land. And then the U-boat skipper said, I'd like to give you guys some water, but our desalinator's down, so can I give you a couple cases of beer instead? And there were many instances where guys who met in combat during the war became good friends after the war. U.S. Navy Lieutenant Hal McCormick was a gunnery officer on the William Gaston freighter coming up from South America. And Jürgen Osten, in command of U-861, sank them in 1944. I think it was late 44. And that was it. Years later, Hal McCormick hunted down Osten, who was an executive with St. Pauli Girl Brewery in Hamburg, and they met. They became friends, and they came to one of my conventions, and they were on television together. Yesterday's enemies are today's friends. That's our motto.
Welcome aboard, folks. If you're just joining us, we're live with Harry Cooper of SharkHunters.com. We want to welcome Gary tuning in from Germany, Luda, and others out there. We're just getting started tonight, and I'm excited to be back with Harry. Harry, you also probably have some patrols coming up. I want you to talk about those tonight. But first, let's go into some of these photographs that you have brought with you tonight. Shall we?
Rock and roll. Let's go. Number
Okay.
one. That's the book we're talking about. It's 8.5 by 11 inches, jammed with photos, still information in there that the government still isn't releasing. Let's look at number two. Yep, it's in Spanish. And number three, Diese Buch ist auf Deutsch. It's in German as well. Um, Die Weltraum, yeah, okay, space. Die letzte Grenze, the final frontier. These books, it's all the same book in Spanish, German as well. Next photo. Crick. This is the guy who gave me all the information. He actually filtered it through Jeff Rentz, who Clark gave me the green light. Rentz gave me all the bits and pieces, and we put it together here. After 35 years, this guy got fired with no severance, no retirement. Next photo. Clark McClellan hunted down Jackie Gleason because Clark lived by Cape Canaveral, and Jackie Gleason by then had moved from Hollywood over to Fort Lauderdale and the suburb of Lauderhill, I think it was called. And he was a huge entertainer, and I think he bought the golf course. I don't know, but he was on the golf course all the time. He and Nixon got to be friends. And so when Clark got to be friends with Jackie, the three of them, Clark McClellan, Jackie Gleason, and Richard Nixon, went down to Homestead Air Force Base, and it's all in this book in great detail. And they saw remains of the guys from outer space and pieces of the craft that came down. And from what Clark told me after that, they moved it all to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, where he tells me there are warehouses that go down 2, 3, 4 basements deep. And it's like as he said, it's a lot like the warehouse in Indiana Jones and the Ark of the Covenant, the old guy pushing this crate through a warehouse filled with crates and crates and crates. And he said that's what it was like. Next picture. Why does everybody want to get to the moon first? The government is starting to tell you the story. Why? Helium-3. I have no idea what helium-3 is or what it's for, but it's apparently everybody wants it. He3 is the atomic weight or whatever. These are the mining spots on the face of the moon where they are finding helium-3. It's all listed in this book, why they want to be there, etc. And we're finding out now, they're admitting on the news that, yep, we need helium-3. Okay, I don't know what or why or where it is, but there's a race on between us and the Chinese, apparently. The Russians have pretty well dropped out of the Space Force. I think it's a financial situation. Next. The Kecksburg egg. We're not going to get too far afield, but they believe this was Die Glocke, the Nazi bell, which we've got a whole chapter on that in this book, and we've touched on it in other books. It was a controlled landing outside the town of Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, and NASA sent Clark McClellan and one other guy from the Cape to Kecksburg to supervise loading that onto the U.S. Army flatbeds. Where is the Kecksburg egg now? You might as well ask where's Jimmy Hoffa's body, because ain't nobody talking.
Now, what do you think? What was the purpose of the Kecksburg egg? Was this like simulating a module coming back down from space, or?
No, It stood about 8, 9 feet high. There's no photographs of it, but we've got descriptions. This is as close as we got. Inside the uh, the egg, it was about 6 foot wide by about 8, 9, 10 feet high. There were two concentric spheres in there, or cylinders, rotating in opposite directions at incredibly high RPMs, and they had a colloidal substance called Zerum, XERUM, Zerum 525, as either a lubricant or maybe something to make things. We don't know. We don't know. There's a lot in this book about the Zerum 525 and the Kecksburg egg, but nobody knows where it is right now, or at least nobody's talking.
That's
But
amazing.
Clark, yeah, there's a whole lot in this book about the Kecksburg egg and Die Glocke. I flew over to Warsaw and spent an afternoon with Igor Witkowski, who is the world leader in the knowledge of the Die Glocke. But I don't know if he was being uh, careful or what, but uh, his answers were all one word, no great explanations, just yes, yellow, no, and that was about it. So, but one of these days he'll talk more. He's a member of Shark Hunters. Okay, back the next photo. Ah, yes, this was seen by everybody with a NASA monitor, and it was only on. Clark says for about 5 seconds, and all the monitors went blank. They were looking here in the cargo bay of whichever shuttle this is, and there's one of the astronauts, and suddenly there's a 9 foot tall guy right next to him with a weird looking ship trailing the capsule. Everybody in NASA saw it, and this was an artist concept made from what they saw. So obviously, we was not always alone. Next, here's another one of our space shots, artist concept again, but from what the astronaut told him. Uh, that's all in the book and explained too. Next photo. Yep, another one that has visitors tagging along. That was a reentry capsule early on that had 5 other observers. Next.
Hey, how'd they get in there?
How did I get up there? I don't
That's a
know.
that's a top secret photo there.
Yeah, I guess that's really secret. I didn't even know about it. There is
If
so
you
much more uh, in this book than just what we went over. Uh,
yes,
we have here Jackie Gleason and President Nixon. Uh, there was another situation. Now you've heard on the TV news over the last few weeks, missing scientists.
yes, sir.
That's nothing new. Missing and suicide. That's nothing new. We go into it in this book. These are the table of contents here, and that's everything that's in the book. Clark,
Missing scientist, missing nuclear physicist, people
yeah,
turning up dead. This
right.
is not one or two. There's like a whole hit list.
There
Almost
was, I
reminds
think,
me of the
12.
Clinton body count.
Oh no, it ain't nowhere near that yet. Uh, but one time, Clark was supposed to meet with this scientist to discuss the Philadelphia experiment, if you remember that, and they think Die Glocke was part of the Philadelphia experiment. They think Die Glocke was meant to bend time,
Hmm.
and they made a destroyer disappear allegedly for what 5, 10 seconds uh, during the Philadelphia experiment. Okay, well, one of the scientists who was in that was supposed to meet with Clark. Now, the scientist lived in Miami. Clark lived in Cape Canaveral, so they were going to meet halfway. However, this scientist, I forgot his name, it's in the book, he stopped on the way, went into a public parking garage, opened his trunk, and took out a length of hose that just happened to fit over his tailpipe and stuck it in the window, got in the car, and sat there and gassed himself to death. Do you have a hose in the trunk of your car that fits your tailpipe? I don't. I don't know anybody that does. But that's what happened to him. Another time, there was a guy who had knowledge on his way home from the Cape. He was at a railroad crossing out in the middle of nowhere. Train wasn't due for 10, 15 minutes, so this guy just parked on the train tracks and sat there till the train came along and game over. He talks about a lot of that in this book. And some of the astronauts were forcibly retired early. And he goes into detail on how there was a lot of sabotage at the Cape. He gives specifics on how Challenger and Columbia, what was the other one that crashed, the one that burnt up in the atmosphere, how they were sabotaged. And the capsule where Gus Grissom burned up with the other two astronauts.
That's right.
That was sabotage, bare wires, and the thing was full of oxygen. So, contrary to some common belief, oxygen does not burn. But anything that catches fire with total oxygen and environment goes off like a flash cube. So these guys had no chance. So he goes into great detail on how all this sabotage happened. Ancient
I've got a friend.
civilizations. Go ahead.
I have a friend named Bart Sabrill who did some research into the space module where the three astronauts burn alive. One of them, Gus Grissom.
Gus Grissom,
and actually interviewed his widow. And she said her husband had told her, he had called her and said, "Hey, honey, there's something going on down here. We've got CIA buzzing this whole place down here." And they were having technical problems where they couldn't even communicate from inside the module, sitting there in that warehouse in test mode with people on the outside. And they said, if we can't even communicate with them, how are we going to do it, out in space? Yeah. And so apparently he had put a big flag and said lemon and stuck it up there. He knew that there were some problems here, and they shut him down.
Yeah, unfortunately,
burn alive.
You're dealing with high-stake stuff.
Yes.
And when something goes wrong, you either get clipped or, as in the case of Clark, you get totally stripped of everything you own.
Absolutely. He was an original whistleblower for NASA and the space missions. Folks, you're going to read things that you've never heard before from an insider. Again, if you're just joining us, we're talking about the book Harry's got. Let me get the full screen up there. It's called, well, you know what? Actually, I just changed the view. Hang on a minute. We'll get it right. I'm still learning my way around. Space, the Final Frontier. Secrets NASA doesn't want you to know. Now, he's got it also in Espanol for those that speak Spanish. But you got...
And in German.
And in German. Okay, Guten Tag. Wait a minute. We have some people tuning in from Germany. Again, welcome, Gary. We've got, I believe, Zaleji. Welcome aboard. Carolina and others out there. Hey, we're live. This is Tuesday, May 26, 2026. This is a book that was released, and it's got information you're not going to find anywhere else, from a man who was an insider, Clark McClellan. Again, we showed one of the pictures of Clark here, and he worked on the original space shuttle missions, right?
Right. He actually was involved in more than 600 launches.
Wow.
Yeah, we sent a lot of stuff up there that didn't have people on board, but he was involved in all of them until he called Obama a traitor and released too much information.
Well, I'll call him something else.
Well, I know that.
I People ask me here in Indonesia, what do I think about Obama? Because Obama went to school here, and of course I tell them, here we go, get us back in full screen. I said
Hi.
I said gay. They said what?
Yeah.
I
Oh,
said
yeah.
yeah, he's gay. And there's some questions whether his spouse is a man or a Michael. I don't know.
Some question?
There's some question there.
There's
Now I
not a
do think
question. There's not a question.
what's going
But
on here.
anyhow, I don't
We've
want to
got
get clipped.
yeah. We don't, I better be careful because I could get over into France. The guy that married his own uncle. Okay, Macron.
Yeah, Macron, yeah.
Folks, if my teeth, turn brown, it's because I'm eating brownie. They're really good. Okay, so you want to get this book. This is one of many great books that you can get from Harry Cooper over at SharkHunters.com. Now, Harry, let's get some of these slides back on the screen.
Okay.
Now, let's jump to your next book we're going to talk about tonight, Hitler in Argentina. Again, Shark Hunters broke this first, the documented truth of Hitler's escape from Berlin. Tell me about this book and how you began to write it.
Yeah. Interesting. One of our members way back in the about 1986, 86, I think it was, 85, introduced me to a guy named Don Angel Alcazar de Velasco. He was a Spaniard, of course, and he was working for the Abwehr. He was a German agent. Not a very good one, I guess, but one of his first tasks was hanging around in Portugal, and he got to be friends with the abdicated King Edward VIII, who was then called the Duke of Windsor. His task was to get uh, the Duke, the ex-king, whatever, to go with him into Spain on a hunting trip, and then the Gestapo would grab the king and call England and say, okay, let's make a deal, because Hitler had been trying to stop the war with the Brits. He had made something like, by the time uh, Hess flew over Scotland, Hitler had made 20 peace proposals to let's just quit fighting, but Churchill needed to keep the war going. So Don Angel was supposed to bring the king into Spain, kidnap him, but the king, for whatever reason, didn't go. So this book goes through so much, so many chapters of what went on, and there's FBI files in here. I can't say only an idiot would believe he died in the bunker, but I believed it too until I started in with this. Uh, the last 3 or 4 months of the war, Don Angel worked in the Fuhrer bunker. Part of his job was to give a report every day on something to Hitler. And so he knew Hitler quite well. And every so often I get some hardcore knucklehead. There's a lady, I won't mention Monica's name, who says, "Oh no, Hitler died the honorable death, committed suicide in the bunker." That's an honorable death, to die in a damn cellar? Uh, there's so much wrong with that death stuff. We'll get into that in a minute. But Don Angel saw Hitler and Eva Braun forcibly drugged under orders of Martin Bormann and removed from the bunker. It's in the book in great detail. Uh, and moved down to Argentina. Uh, so I published all this in our magazine in the late 80s. Then there was a guy named Gerard Williams joined Shark Hunters in the middle 90s. And he was a member for 2 years. And like any other member, we'll share information. And then this schmuck wrote his own book called Gray Wolf, The Hunt for Adolf Hitler. And it read an awful lot like my book. Golly gosh. Except he indicated that Hitler went to South America on board U-530 submarine. And another guy, I can't even remember the other guy's name, who or copied the book, and the same thing, said it was U-530. Wrong. Hitler was incredibly claustrophobic, and he got seasick easily. So to think this guy is going to spend a month or two in a smelly, stinky tube bouncing around in the Atlantic just doesn't wash. And Otto Wermuth, the commander of U-530, was a member of SharkHunters for years and a friend of mine. He swore on his honor as an officer he had no passengers on board. And we know that's true because we know Hitler flew down there on board a gigantic 6-engine Ju 390 aircraft that had an 8,000-mile range. It didn't have enough to make it to Argentina, so they landed on an estancia outside the town of Paysandú, Uruguay. I've been there. I talked to people who I talked to people who heard the plane land in the middle of the night. We've got diagrams of a hand drawn chart of the area where they were landing, and a little wooded area where they put the radio direction finder, the RDF, so that the plane could find its way there in the dark. Huge airplane with a lot of wing area. Its landing speed was about 75 miles an hour. So you can land that thing anywhere you got a long stretch, and there was a long stretch. And we finally, I interviewed the lady whose father owned the estancia. And we went to her door with my translator, and I knocked on the door. And I'm not Mike Wallace. I don't do ambush interviews. We explained what we were doing. They invited us in. Nice people, gave us coffee and cake, standard. And we were talking, and I was asking questions. I always ask easy questions up front to make the person feel comfortable, and then I come on with the important questions. So, bingo, I said, what about the big plane that landed on your father's estancia? Oh, tee tee. She and her husband were just tee, nervous laugh. Oh, that never happened. I said, oh, how all these people heard something land, and the prefect of police, which is the highest level cop in the whole province, came over to take the report. Oh, yeah, there was a crop duster plane that landed at 2 in the morning, and I didn't want to confront her, but I'm thinking a crop duster plane doesn't fly at night. It's a single engine, single seat, and it's got a little 40 horsepower engine. It's just got a little snarl, not the thunder out of 2,000 horsepower engines coming down, and the prefect of police is not coming out to investigate a crop duster landing. So I just got word from my guy in Argentina about 2 months ago. She finally admitted to him, yep, the big bird landed there.
Wow.
So we're digging stuff out, and people are copying it. You'd think they'd at least send me a thank you note when they stole my stuff.
Absolutely, they did. Now, was this the same couple that they had something on their arm that you noticed? Or was that a different story?
One of the ladies. That was one of the ladies that heard the plane land. We've got a picture in the book, and we're sitting there talking to this lady. They were all widows in this Colonia Abril, whatever the heck it was, a German colony called Colony 19th of April, because that was founded on the 19th of April at some year in the 1920s, I think it was, and the men had all died off, and the widows were still alive. So anyhow, she's sitting there with her arms like this on the table, No, there were no Nazis here, and there's three swastikas tattooed on her forearm. Okay, fine, whatever you say, lady. So, and I don't speak Spanish, but I get along fine in those little towns with my German.
That's
In
amazing.
town, yeah, towns like Hohenau, that's a German name,
Right.
where we had lunch at the Edelweiss Cafe in Hohenau, and then we had a beer in the New Berlin Tavern right down the road. That's where Mengele had made his headquarters,
Where
but
is Soho now? Is that Paraguay?
that's Paraguay. Yep.
Okay, and that's a very important location as part of the history
Oh God,
because
yes.
there was a estancia, a ranch out there. Is that right, or is it a farmhouse, or what was it out there in Hohenau?
You mean
Bormann and
where?
Mingele.
Right. That was at that. That was just a little further up the road. A beautiful, beautiful uh, resort, but
Yeah.
unlike any resorts I've ever seen. Long brick buildings, three of them, but not stacked like this. One goes here, then you go down some stairs, and out in this part of the forest or jungle, there's more. Then over here, there's more. And that was, there was a big meeting room. And I asked, this was years ago, I was there, and this nice little old lady was there. Uh, I forget what her function was, but I got to talking to her and asked if any of the people from the Reich had, oh, yes, they had meetings in this room.
Wow.
And I said, who was Mengele here? She says, yes, Mengele lived here in the resort. What about Stroessner? Oh, Stroessner was here. I said, who else?
Wow.
Bormann was
Stroessner.
here. Yeah,
Yes.
Mengele was here. Eichmann was there. And I said, what about Hitler? She got a little quiet and she says, yeah, der Fuhrer, what a wonderful man. He was here. So,
They tried to keep it secret. You see,
of course, of course.
nobody of his ever found at the bunker in Berlin.
No, there
But they found a
wouldn't be.
doppelganger, didn't they?
Yeah, that's another interesting thing.
With a bullet in his
History
forehead.
says, yeah, history says that Hitler shot himself in the right temple. Well, you see the picture, which I think was contrived, and all the blood spatter is on the right. Well, if you shoot yourself here and the bullet comes out here, the blood spatter's on your left, not on the wall. The so called eyewitnesses, which is in my book too, were interrogated by the Russians and helped to remember. Two of them heard the shot. One of them smelled the gunpowder. They all ran into the Fuhrer suite, and two of them said that Hitler was sitting on the sofa next to Eva Braun. Eva Braun's dress was wet because Hitler apparently knocked over a flower vase. The third guy said Hitler was sitting in a chair on the other side of the room and Eva was laying on the sofa. That's a heck of a mistake.
Yeah.
So we all see the picture of dead Hitler with the bullet hole here. And there's no powder burns. So one of the guys in my writers club here, I try to help young writers get going. He's a 40-year veteran of the Tampa Police Department homicide and a forensic investigator. So I showed him the picture. I said, how far away would the gun have to be to leave no powder burns? He looked at it. He says, this is an exit wound. This guy was shot in the back of the head. It was Hitler's cousin, a guy named Silep, Joseph Silep, who looked just like Hitler, spoke with the same dialect because it came from the same section of Austria.
Yeah.
And we have done some digging. We've found so far 6 doubles of Hitler.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah, and of course, there's no body because he didn't die there. And yet,
That's right.
I sometimes find it hard to be understanding when people are so brainwashed. They just get right in your face. No, no, he shot himself in the bunker and they've got the body. And I love it when they do that. And so I always ask them, well, who's got the body? The Russians. It's in the Red Army Museum. And I always smile and say, Нет, нет базара. Я вас почуть не русский подводник. St. Petersburg. What? I'm an honorary Russian submarine officer still. I was a commissar of the Soviet Union when the
Wow.
CIA sent me in there, and
Right.
I've been to the Red Army Museum. Hitler ain't there, uh, and
Lenin.
if Stalin would have had Hitler's body, even if it had been burned, he'd have been behind glass in the Kremlin wall. And I've been to
Sure.
the Kremlin many times. Hitler ain't there. Stalin knew Hitler was gone in July of 1945. 3 months after the alleged suicide, Stalin was publicly screaming at England and the US that they weren't doing enough to find Hitler. Well, if he's dead and you got the body, why are you hollering?
That's
They
right.
all knew. And it's all listed in this book, um, Hitler in Argentina. And at the back of the book here, you'll see all sorts of FBI files. They all knew he was gone. And then in middle of 1947, President Truman told the head of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, stop the hunt. And of course, we don't know why, but that's when the FBI stopped looking for Hitler. You read these documents, they knew where he was. Uh, but there's no way anybody could have, no, idiot Chuck Schumer, um,
He is.
about him, yeah. Uh, the It would not have been easy to grab him like they did Eichmann years later, because
Right.
from 1945 to 1955, all the guys who escaped from the Reich, not only Germans but Croatians, Italians, etc., were living pretty much in the open in Argentina.
Right.
Uh, my follow-on book, Hitler and the Secret Alliance, goes into great detail on that. It shows the houses where they lived with their addresses, etc. Perón was getting heavy guitas from
Yeah.
Bormann, lots of money for protection. So uh, Perón was not going to give them up. And if the U.S. wanted to go in and get somebody, they would have had to go in with full invasion, and that wasn't going to happen. After Perón died in 55, they had to scramble. And Eichmann, for instance, was not wealthy. So he was living in the open, and he was not the so-called author of the final solution. He was a lieutenant colonel. Lieutenant colonels don't have that kind of horsepower.
Well,
Um,
before we go too far past 55, I think we need to back up a second
okay,
and discuss this photo right here. This is number 12. What are we looking at here?
we are looking at the Casa Inalco. I took that photo. That's where Hitler lived from 45 to 55. And after he moved out, the place kind of went into disrepair. We've been there many times, and the last time I had a group there in Argentina, which 2 years ago, I think it was, we stayed there overnight in one of the guest cottages because the main house was in such poor shape. But the guest cottage had at least um, electric, and it had a fireplace because it was pretty brisk. Yeah, that's about 500 meters away. There was a farm. Now, when Hitler lived on the Obersalzberg in Bavaria, he, Bormann, Goering, and many of the others had homes up on top of the Obersalzberg. Um, they had their own farms, and everything they ate or drank came from their own places.
Yes.
Um, and the same thing here. There were 80 or so people on this compound in Argentina.
Okay, so what we're looking at here for those just joining us is the estate that Hitler lived, and it was called Inalco. Is that
Yes,
correct? And where?
Inalco.
Okay, and again, where is this located at?
It is in Patagonia. People like to say it's near San Carlos de Bariloche, but it's really like 50 kilometers away. But it's closer to a little town called Villa Langostura, and it's still kind of out. Let me tell you, it's absolutely magnificent. Right where I'm standing to take this picture, right behind me is a huge big lake, Lake Navalwapi, and beyond beyond where Hitler's place was are the Andes Mountains. Just magnificent. I got off the plane the first time in 2008. You could swear you were in Bavaria. Everything looked like Bavaria. The construction of the homes and uh, just it's a beautiful place. We're going again in November. I have a group going down there. I'm bringing
Going
a
down
group.
to Argentina?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're spending
Amazing.
1 week in Buenos Aires, which is called the Paris of the South, a beautiful city. And then we're spending 1 week down near Inalco. We cannot go on the property anymore because it's been bought out by a mega wealthy Argentinian, and he spent God knows how much money refurbishing the place to make it look just like what it was when Hitler was living there. But he now has armed guards.
Amazing.
So,
So, when you saw it, um, you took this picture, of course. Let me go
yep,
back there. And that's in pretty good condition there. But over the years, it began to come apart, didn't it? I think there was a volcano in the region, put a lot of
there
ash
was
on the roof.
yeah, there's a volcano in Chile, and it erupted, I think, 2011, 2019, I'm not sure which, and it spread a layer of ash all over that region, and there was like 1 or 2 inches of volcanic ash on the roof and all over the beautiful lawn, and just pretty well wiped out everything. And the caretaker wasn't really taking care. He was selling off some of the internal furnishings. So,
But
uh,
now, after many years, someone has purchased it and they've
yeah,
restored it, huh?
yes, it's beautiful. We have friends down there who buzz by on the lake and shoot pictures. We've got one picture that just came in from only a month ago.
Wow.
Place looks beautiful, beautiful.
Now, Harry, when you first went down there, what kind of time frame are we talking that you first got to see this place?
That was in 2008.
Okay. And by that time, did they have a road built out there, or did you have to come in through the lake? How did you get out there? By car?
No, the road was not put through at that time. We came by boat.
Okay. Oh,
Some years,
really? Amazing.
yes, and we just beached the boat. Unlike those clowns that did the Hunting Hitler TV show, which they borrowed a lot of stuff out of my book, but then they added and embellished, which got them kicked off the air. But they had this one guy who was a former U.S. Navy SEAL. He was going to sneak up to the place. He comes roaring by in a speedboat, uh, and
And then jumps out of the raft and is, just trying to go low profile in there, right?
yeah, low profile, you know. And when we go there, after they had a caretaker, we knew Senor Torres, the
Yes.
caretaker. Hi, Senor Torres. Here's a picture of Ben Franklin for you. Slip him $100 bills, and he unlocked everything. We didn't
He's my
have to
favorite
spend
president.
right, and he wasn't even a president. So uh, it incredible what those clowns did. And then there's this guy
Yes.
Josh something or another on television,
Oh, yeah.
and he looks like the Pillsbury Doughboy dressing like Indiana Jones.
That's
And
right.
they went there. I just saw it on television a little while ago. They were at Inalco, the first time anybody was ever there. What the heck? Well, I've been there every year since 2008, but
Yes.
that was the first time. And here the place had been abandoned, left to go to hell, covered with volcanic ash. He reaches down, he picks up a bright, shiny new Third Reich coin. Oh, look, a Nazi coin. Nazis were here. You,
Man.
they call that salting the mind.
Right.
Yeah,
You'd been
what a
there and done that. In other words, you'd been there and seen it
yeah,
and even stayed in the place, spent the
yeah,
night there, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. 2 years ago, we never
Already got the
found
t-shirt.
any. Yeah, we never found any coins. They did the same thing with that Hunting Hitler TV show when they found Hitler's home up
Right.
in up in the TBA Tri Border area, where there's a a finger of Argentina sticks up in between some of the other countries. We went there. They discovered it. What,
Oh my
5, 6
goodness.
years ago? I think they discovered Hitler's home. We went. It's a state park, for God's sake, and they got the big wooden map on the on the outskirts with the road, and it showed. It said Bormann House, and so we went there. And this was right after, you remember, right after I fell off my roof,
Oh
broke
yeah.
my back, cracked my head,
Oh no.
spent 3 days. Yeah, spent 3 days in the hospital. I don't even remember. They let me out, and 4 days later, I was on a plane for South America, and damn near died in the jungle down there. It was 130 degrees, and
Oh
we
yeah.
had to actually push our way through clouds of mosquitoes. Martina and I were so loaded up with repellent that no self-respecting skunk would have come near us. And so we followed the trail a mile into the jungle, and there it is, just the remains of a 3-room house, but it's on a little bit of a rise. And you look to the west, and there's the Paraná River, and right across the river is Paraguay. You look to the east, and 20 kilometers, there's Brazil. Actually, more like 10 kilometers. This was a safe house for people escaping. But the park rangers told us that those guys came with little cups full of pill bottles, little German pill bottles and German money, and they scattered it around, and then they turned on the cameras. Oh, look, we're finding Nazi money and pill bottles. That means Hitler was a drug addict. People like that, no
Yeah.
comment.
That's
I hate a
terrible.
liar. Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you
If you
can't find
just join
history,
us,
keep looking. Don't fake it.
that's right. I'm excited to be here with Harry Cooper because he's got real history, documented history, many first discoveries through SharkHunters.com. And I want to go back to some of these photos here. Okay,
Yeah.
so we were just looking at one of Hitler's homes. This was in Argentina,
Yep.
and he was there up to about 1955, and that's because that's when there was the change
Yeah, they
in the
call it the
government.
bloody. Yeah, they call it the Bloody September Revolt when the army um, threw Juan Perón out of power.
Juan
Now,
Perón.
whether he was a
Okay.
good guy or a bad guy, I don't know. That's just history. I don't, was
Where did
Hitler
he
a good guy
go?
or a bad guy? I don't care. I'm just doing history.
Folks, we want to find out what really happened at the end of the war. It's not
Exactly.
like we've been told. It's not like that investigative journalist hired by the British to do the investigation. They didn't get Scotland Yard in there. They got a writer to go in there, do his report. He didn't have any forensic skills. And they said,
No,
well, Hitler's dead. He's buried. They burn him with petrol. End of the story. No, it's not the end of Hitler. He
that was a
escaped.
guy named Hugh Trevor Roper. He was also the ones that um, said that the Hitler diaries were real. And now we
Oh
find
boy.
out they were not real. So
There was a lot going on in South America. Um, you
you
traced
got it.
Hitler to Uruguay, and then he made his way to Argentina. Is that correct? And
Right. He landed in Uruguay, and then that was dead of winter. It was July, I think it was. That's dead of winter down there.
okay,
And when things thawed out, then they went by, I think, by seaplane. That was the only way in and out of Bariloche back then. There was no road. And so he was 1945 to 1955. We've written a couple other books. People ask, what was he doing down there? Well, it's real sketchy history, but we know he was. Let me step back for a second. The Third Reich did not die. They just merely moved to South America. And there were big galas and formal dinners in many, many places down there.
yes,
And Hitler was the guest of honor. We've got pictures. I think there's one in the mix somewhere. You'll find it uh, of a bunch of people with swastika flags and a picture of Adolf Hitler right in the middle. You may like it, you may hate it. I really don't care. I'm bringing history. This is the way it was, and
yes,
they had gatherings like that in the open until 1955, 1995,
95. Wow.
right, when Sam Donaldson, that news guy with the fiberglass haircut, went down to Bariloche and he outed uh, Erich Priebke.
Right.
Now, Priebke was a member of SharkHunters. He held the rank of Hauptsturmführer, which is the same as a captain in the army. He was in Rome, and some Italian partisans killed 10 German officers. And according to some treaty, I don't know what treaty it is, if civilians kill soldiers from the other side may kill 10 civilians for each officer killed. So, no, it was 30. Yeah, because he. Okay, fine, thank you. They they were supposed to kill 300 civilians. I think it was, yeah, 300. And Priebke was in charge in that area. And Priebke says, no, the war's almost over. I don't want to do this. He got a direct order from Hitler. So he went to the mayor of Rome and said, hey, you got any people in prison who are due to be executed? So they marched them up to the caves, and 300, the number's in the book. So they executed all these people in the cave. Turned out he executed 2 or 3 people more than he was allowed to execute. So he was living in the open in Bariloche. He had a butcher shop that he owned. He also founded the college down there in Bariloche. But then Sam Donaldson popped up and outed him, and he got dragged to Italy, to Rome, for a military court, and he was found not guilty of any wrongdoing. Came back to Bariloche. Bad move. Then the civilian court went after him and dragged him back to Rome, and that, kangaroo court, and he was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison. If I ever get sentenced to life in prison, I want it to be like Erich Priebke. They put him in a luxury apartment in Rome, and
Wow.
his guards were beautiful young Carabinieri women, and confined. We got pictures of him shopping in the supermarkets, walking in the park across the road. But
Wow.
he was one of Hitler's personal bodyguards down
Really?
there.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Ever
Did he
since.
did he give you any details at all about that? Or how did
No,
you come upon the information?
He was very closed-mouthed about it, but I had dinner with his son, who was
Okay.
in his
Okay.
50s or so, and his son gave me a lot of information. His son was a very, very bright guy. We were sitting at a table for dinner. I had a group down there,
Yes, sir.
and his son was at the head of the table. On his left, across the table from me, because I was on his right, were 2 Germans. And then on his right was me and my Spanish translator, Spanish speaking. He was carrying on a conversation with me in English, with the 2 Germans in German, and the translator in Spanish at the same time.
Wow.
Not a stupid guy.
So was
And
his son who had mentioned, filled in some of the details on his dad?
correct.
And so he basically, he confirmed that Hitler was over in Argentina. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, yes.
Amazing, because his
And
father
I've
would have done
met-
security detail.
That's right. I've met other people there who saw him. I interviewed this nice lady. She and her husband were on their honeymoon in 1954
Yes.
down in that area. They saw Hitler in a very nice restaurant. They were dining. So, it just, if people want to believe the propaganda that they've been taught, the history, I understand it. Hitler committed suicide and all that stuff. It's not true, but that's all they have to go on. However, anybody who has access to the information that's in this book or what I've learned, if they have access to that and they still believe, like that Monica gal, then you got to be darn a box of rocks. You got to be putting out cookies and milk on Christmas Eve for a fat guy in a red suit who really ain't coming down your chimney.
Absolutely.
Hitler
I mean,
did not die in the Führer bunker.
it's pretty
Period.
common for people to go into exile or escape. You know, even look at the Prince of Saud. Prince, was it Saud of Syria? You know, he went over to Russia. I was in Panama many years ago and lived there for 2 years. I don't know if I told you. I lived in Costa Rica for 3, Panama for 2, Colombia, Cartagena for a couple months. You can't stay more than 6 months in the calendar year over there, so I couldn't get a visa stay. And then I was in Tijuana, Mexico for a year, now Bali for 10 years. But I went out with this guy named, he was a friend of a friend who happened to be in Panama, and he said, man, let's meet for lunch. And we go over to this hotel where the Chamber of Commerce, American Chamber of Commerce, would meet. And I'm saying, what are we over here for? And he said, the hobnob. You never know who you might meet over here. And sure enough, this guy's name was Jan Masick. He would meet all kinds of interesting people. And he'd say, hey, man, let's go to dinner. I got so-and-so wants to join us. And, of course, he would introduce me to some interesting people, but he also wanted me to pick up the tab. And he would always bring a girlfriend with him, and he would order like a bottle of wine. And I'm thinking, my goodness, I'm down here trying to get a visa to stay in Colombia, and they had sent me from Colombia to Panama to meet the Colombian ambassador over there and try to get the consulate, rather, and try to get a visa. And so Jan hit me up, and I'm spending like $300 a night on a meal. I said, man, I'm going to be bankrupt. So
Yeah.
I had to cancel some of these, but not before. We're sitting in one restaurant, and he said, look at that table over there. And I looked, and there was this African man with 2 young girls. I said, who is that? And he said, that's some deposed leader from one of the African countries. He's in exile. They were going to throw him in jail, and he escaped. And he's over here in Panama, and he got his money with him, and he's got these young girls. And I see him all the time over here. And he was an interesting guy. He actually said, I'm going to introduce you to one of the Bushes. And I'm thinking, you mean George Bush? He said, no, Anheuser-Busch. I said, Anheuser-Busch? He said, yeah, one of the heirs lives here in Panama and runs a magazine. He's a chiropractor. And I looked the guy up. Sure enough, it was true. He was a chiropractor, had a Chiropractor Monthly or something magazine, and he was a day trader. And he was also one of the heirs to the Anheuser-Busch, family fortune. And I think his immediate family got a very small percentage. But meet these guys, and you never know who he was going to meet. But he would get me into trouble. We'd go into the hotels, and he would go up and say to the lady up the desk, you see that guy over there? CIA. I'm not CIA? I'm not CIA. I said, Jan, stop saying that. They're going to think it's true. He's saying, look at him. He's CIA. I don't know why I did.
True.
Well, no, I actually, that's another story. Probably not for tonight, but I did try to get on. But I made it to the last round, and they didn't hire me. I worked for the Department of Defense from 89 to 96. I went in at about 21 years old. And lo and behold, that was right after the invasion of Panama, and then Desert Storm, Desert Shield, all that stuff broke out. Yeah. So it was a great job for me. Right out of high school, I needed a job, and the government was hiring, and I was in there like 6.5 years, and there were people who had been in there like 40 years. They had started young like me, and I thought, you work 20 years and you retire, but it's not like the military. It's based on your age. So I'm in there like at 21. They said, well, you got to work till you're like 62. You mean I got to be here 40 years shuffling papers? And I saw this guy one day, and he looked half dead. And all of a sudden I said, oh, man, that could be me. I got to get out of here. And so I was working part-time in security. Make a long story longer. I thought, you know what? I'm going to try to get into the CIA. Maybe I could be like a James Bond. My brain was working like that. I didn't realize you need a college degree to do it. And they said, well, you probably won't be able to do that, but you could get in as a SPO, a special police officer. And I was working part-time in security to make ends meet. And so I thought I would qualify for that because, I've been working in security for a few years, after hours, weekend shifts.
Uh-huh.
And lo and behold, I was working at this one place called Performance Systems International. They were one of these cutting-edge internet companies. This was back around 92 or so. And one of the guys was a Mormon, really weird guy, but he said, "Did you know that a lot of the CIA are Mormons?" I said, "No." I said, "Why is that?" He said, "Because they don't drink. They don't even drink coffee. And they're considered, to be pretty honest people. So the CIA doesn't want liars. They want honest people. And so they hire a bunch of Mormons." And he said, "I'm going to a Mormon church, and it just so happens I know a guy who works in personnel over there." I said, "Really? Can you do me a favor? Get me a foot in the door?" He says, "I'll talk to him and see maybe we can get you an interview." And then I had another guy who was retired CIA. This is a strange story, but it's true. And his name was Harold. I said, "Harold, what are you doing here?" He said, "Well, I'm trying to make some extra money while I'm going back to college to get a degree." And he told me he had been recruited back during NAM and had worked with the agency for about 20 years. Retired. He was working part-time in security where, real easy shift, just walk around once an hour, check the doors, make sure the coffee pot wasn't left on, and then go sit at your desk. Take you like 5 minutes. And then he would study these chemistry books. And really interesting situation I found myself in. There was 3 of us that did this round-the-clock shift on the weekends. And so one dude, he's going to this Mormon church where he's got a connection with the personnel office, and then this other guy is retired CA. And I said, "Hey, I wonder if I could get my foot in the door as a SPO, Special Police Officer." He said, "Why don't you try it?" And then my friend came back the next weekend and said, "Hey, call this number." And it was a number for the personnel office for the CIA. And they do regular hiring, and they'll advertise in the newspaper, and basically you go down and take a test. And they hire for all types of jobs, but about all I qualified for at the time would have been security. Just the guys at the front desk. But I figured, hey, get my foot in the door. Who knows? And I thought if I can get on with them, I'll stay in the government. But if not, I'm going to leave and go back into private sector. So I called the number. They said, "Hey, we're going to have some testing on so-and-so date." And so, Harry, I went down, and there was a full room of people. It was packed out. And they had these big, just like a 6-foot card table with folding chairs. And they gave everybody a test. And then they wanted you to write an essay. And they bring out, this is back in the days of the VCRs. They brought in this TV with a VCR on a rolling tray.
Uh-huh.
And they said, "We're going to play a video clip, and then we want you to write an essay about it, what you think it all means." And lo and behold, never forget it. This is like 92 or so. It was a speech with George Bush Sr., 1,000 Points of Light. Do you remember that one? Announcing the birth of the New World Order. So I knew that the New World Order was corrupt.
Yeah.
The globalists and all that stuff. But I figured I can't tell the truth, or they wouldn't, even let me through the door. So I'm just going to write something pro New World Order, extolling, the virtues of the 1,000 Points of Light, And I turned it in. I said, "Man, I don't think I did good on that test." And I didn't hear anything for a few weeks. And one day I got a letter in the mail that says, you've made it to the next phase. You passed. It may have been that letter I wrote. I figured I'm going to get in there and get the real information. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to find out where the Clinton bodies are buried, things like that. But, they keep all the secrets, right? Maybe I can get in and get the JFK files and stuff. Well, yeah, I made it. I went through the interview process. They sent me out to this nondescript building. You wouldn't know it from the outside, but inside it had CIA offices. And I met a security guard there, and he interviewed me. Everything went good. Then they said, "Okay, we're going to schedule you." And they sent me out to the farm. I think it was the farm, looking back at it. It was way out in the country. They gave me some cab fare, and I went out there, and I took this test. And you have a test with a CIA shrink, and it gave me a 500-question Scantron. You remember the fill in the circles?
Yep.
Multiple choice, 500 questions. And they'll ask you, like, how many pencils have you ever stolen from your office? And I guess they think you're a fool, that you'll trip up. They'll ask you, one question, then they'll ask you the same one again and see if you have the same answer. And
Oh yeah, they come at the same topic from
500
different
questions.
directions. Yeah.
I didn't think the test ever ends. So then they put it in a machine, they grade it right there, they tell you your score, and then there's a shrink, a psychiatrist. He asks you some questions, just a civil servant, and bam. He said, okay, all good, sent me to a physical. Passed all that, and they said, now we're going to send you in for a lie detector test. And that's as far as I made it. I went into the lie detector test, and guy said to me, you're lying to me. I'm going to send you home to think about it. If you lied to us, you could be in some serious trouble. Could be criminal charges.
Yeah.
So we're going to send you home to think hard about this, and we want you to come back, and we're going to test you again. And I could go on for another hour and describe what happened, but I went through the test, finished that, and then I got a letter that says, we're sorry, but we could not find a place for you.
Oh, jeez.
I went through all that, got rejected, and then I said, to hell with it. I'm leaving. And in 96, I left the government after 6.5 years, went back to Atlanta, and got back into broadcasting. And that was as close as I got to getting in. The guy actually told me, an interrogator, he says, if you get hired, we give you the keys to the kingdom. That was his exact words, keys to the kingdom.
Wow.
I would have just been a lonely police officer, but for the, sitting up there checking people's ID coming in. But
Yeah,
I thought it would have been fun.
007.
No, not without a
007.
degree. Not without a degree. But
I
how did I
had
get
it
off
a
on that
lot
tangent?
easier. I had it a lot easier.
They came
My,
to you, right?
yeah, they came to me, and it was years later I found out how. Without going into great detail, Ronald Reagan was a member of SharkHunters,
Right.
and I found out later through some of my spook uh, contacts, he had contacted Gorbachev. And by that time, they were getting along well, and
Yes.
he told Gorbachev to bring me to the Soviet Union. And Gorbachev ordered the commander in chief of the Soviet Navy, and I had no previous knowledge or anything. One day my fax came on. This was back in the days of fax, clickety,
Yes.
clickety, clickety. And I was invited to the Soviet Union. They were going to pay, all I had to do was pay for my airplane there and back.
Excuse
And
me. Wow.
they put me up in a nice 2-bedroom apartment. I had toilet paper. I didn't have a roll of it. I had 8 squares of toilet paper that they put on
Oh
the
my
sink.
goodness.
Yeah. When I got off,
Oh Lord.
coming into, coming down to any airport, oh, we are landing in Boston, Baltimore, whatever, and they tell you all the wonderful things. No, 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 not Moscow in those days. You are landing at Sheremetyevo Airport. Photography is strictly forbidden. If you have a camera, you will be arrested. Oh God! So we landed, and there's this guy, a little shorter than me. He's about the size of Vladimir Putin, wearing a full-length leather trench coat down to his ankles, holding a sign that says Cooper. I never even waved at him. Oh, Mr. Cooper. I said, what? How did you know? And he kept patting me on the shoulder. I recognize you from your photograph. Oh, okay. Your passport, please. I gave him my passport. He hands it to this guy who takes off at a dead run. I said, where the hell's that guy going with my passport? And he popped on the shoulder again. Do not worry, sir. You are in the Soviet Union. I'm an American citizen in the Soviet Union, and that guy just took off with my passport. Pop on the shoulder again. Do not worry, sir. We are going to the VIP Lounge. The what? The VIP Lounge. You are a VIP. Okay.
Oh, I'm glad he didn't say you're about to get whipped.
Yeah. So we went to the VIP Lounge, and it was really nice for Soviet standards. You are having vodka? No. I almost died from a bad liver, so I cannot drink anymore. Well, that was back then. Anyhow. Oh, do not dying in Soviet Union, please. So then we were there for a while, and then he says, "We're going now." I said, "I haven't cleared customs. I haven't cleared immigration." Pop on his shoulder. "You are cleared." I said, "Where's my suitcases?" They were already in a van with Igor, the guy who took my passport. He was the driver. We got in the van. All the shades were drawn. I thought, "Oh God, I'm going to be taken to a gulag." Then I found out later, no, important people have the shades pulled on the vans. And we went down this prospect. The huge, big, long, wide streets in Moscow are called prospects, and they're like 8 lanes wide. And we came to where another prospect was crossing 8 lanes, but it don't mean 4 lanes this way and 4 lanes that way. No, it's anybody going wherever the hell they're going. It was almost midnight, and the traffic cop was going nuts, jammed up. So Anatoly, the guy in the trench coat, said something to Igor. Igor smiled, drove up on the sidewalk. They got 30 feet wide sidewalks, and he's driving down the sidewalk, beep, 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 into the park on the grass, across past the statue of Soviet hero number 403, right to the Admiralty. And there was the command staff of the Soviet Navy waiting for me at midnight. The only one missing was the commander in chief because he had to run up to St. Petersburg. But the deputy commander and all the other commanders of the Soviet Navy were there. The guys that the CIA guy told me to take pictures of.
Wow.
They
That's
treated
amazing.
me they treated me so nicely. They're not
Yes.
raving maniacs like we're told, the same as the Germans were not raving Nazis. They were normal human beings. We had, then I'll shut up. We had one thing, a round table. Them Russians love round tables. And I was standing, all these admirals are seated, probably a dozen or so. Each one asked me a question on submarine history. But all the time, this one gray haired guy, admiral across the table from me, he just sitting there looking at me like that, got his turn to ask a question. And instead of asking about submarines, he asked, "Why are you here?" And I pointed right at him. I said, "I'm told you're my enemy." He got all stiff. I said, "But you were told I was the enemy." "Oh, yeah." So I said, "I don't see an enemy. I see a man like myself who wants his family to grow up in peace and prosperity without any wars." He agreed. I said, "Okay, so let's drink with Pepsi, a great American invention." "No, with vodka, a great Russian invention." I said, "See, we're alike already." And like somebody threw a switch, they were all on their feet, smiling, ripping the medals off their uniform, pinning them on my jacket.
Wow.
They're no different than we are. I
That's
never
pretty
got used to
amazing.
the kiss on the cheek from them guys, though, but they do that a lot.
I would like to visit it. I hear it's a cool place to go and see
St.
the history.
Petersburg is the most magnificent city I've ever been in. St. Petersburg, the Venice of the North, and they have
Amazing.
what's called the White Nights in mostly around July, where the sun never sets, and like 6 o'clock by us. That's what it
Yeah.
is past midnight over there. Beautiful
Were
cities.
were you able to get on any boats or submarines while you were there and get a tour?
Yeah, not that time, but another time we came back. We went on board a foxtrot, and we were all walking along. We're all supposed to take a left on the gangplank and go onto this foxtrot boat. And but on the right side of the wharf was an experimental Alpha class. So
Now, when you
everybody's
say
turning.
foxtrot, are you talking a submarine?
Yeah,
Wow.
that was
Amazing.
their hunter killers. Yeah, and we were going to
Wow.
go through it, and everybody's turning left. But I saw this experimental Alpha submarine on the right, so I turned right, thinking I was going to drop down through the hatch. Oh no! All of a sudden, here's a guy with with an AK-47
Oh.
and a bayonet. "Sir, that is your submarine there." "Oh, sorry, they all look alike, don't they?"
Man, that's
So
amazing. No, what were these? Are they like black boats? Or
no, they were fast attack boats, but not nuclear. They were conventional powered. And later on, when I had a convention in Daytona in 2000,
Yes.
several Russian submarine commanders came over, including Lev Davidovich Chernevin, who was the com sub of all the Russian submarines, and he was a Foxtrot commander during the Cold War, and they were there for a while. And I said, uh, "What do you what do you think now that you've seen Florida?" "I have seen Florida before through my periscope."
Oh,
"Oh." I said, "Well, what did you see?" "I saw what I was ordered to see." Okay. Well,
that's
he and I
amazing.
became like blood brothers. You exchange
Yes.
hats with a Russian, and it's the same as a blood brother. So
Okay.
I've got his hat right up there in my closet.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, and
I remember the. Go ahead.
no, no. Well, I was going to say he and the Russian boomer boat captain, who was a full captain, they presented me the Admiral Kuznetsov Medal for my humanitarian work. I never saw a medal ceremony like this before. We were in a nightclub in Daytona Beach with my whole group, and they got a 12-ounce glass of Stoli, no mix, no ice, just a 12-ounce glass of Stoli vodka, and they dunked my medal in the Stoli. Then they pinned it on me, and then we all had to drink the Stoli. Well, drinking vodka to a Russian is like drinking water.
Yeah.
Me, I don't remember much of that evening, but the next day I saw a picture of me wearing a grass skirt and two half coconuts dancing on the stage.
I
They
tell you,
were
yeah,
fun guys.
that stuff's potent. I was worried about getting gingivitis years ago, and I'd heard there was this herbal formula you could make, and you mix it in vodka, and it's supposed
Okay.
to pull the actives out of the herbs, and you're supposed to use it as a mouthwash. So I'm not a drinker, and I would take this and I would just swish it around my gums, almost like a Listerine, right?
Okay.
Didn't realize how potent that vodka was. Man, that went right through my gums and my bloodstream. I'm feeling a little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
woozy.
Yeah.
And then I had taken a weekend trip, and someone apparently had come in to do some maintenance and left the door open, and my stepmother came in and saw this vodka bottle up there, and they thought I
On
was
the
on the
sauce,
hardcore
eh?
liquor. But if I had stayed on that recipe, I don't know, I might have been. I mean, I would get a little bit woozy. That's not
Yeah.
probably the best mouth rinse to
Whenever I'd
use.
go to especially St. Petersburg, I would always buy a bottle of vodka to use for brushing my teeth.
Ugh,
Uh, you
right.
don't want to drink the water in St. Petersburg. First
Oh,
off,
okay.
it'll
Sure.
kill you. There are parasites in there that get into your intestine, and the more
Right.
you eat, the happier they are, and the more weight you
Ooh,
lose. However,
wow.
nobody in their right mind would drink the damn water. You hold the glass up to the light, and it's yellow, and there's little things swimming in there. Who the
Ooh,
hell's going to drink that? And
no.
when I take a shower, I always make sure to keep my head out of the water stream. Maybe it's
Absolutely.
changed, I don't know, but they went into the Soviet Union, which is like the United States, is a for-profit corporation if you look into the
Yes.
founding, but they weren't doing so well. They didn't have what we're used to over here:
Hmm.
clean water, plenty of food. They didn't have that. You go into a Soviet supermarket, huge big place like a Walmart or whatever, empty shelves. They got nothing
Oh
in there
boy. This was
back
back in the
then.
90s, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, how it is
They had
now,
real
I don't
shortages.
know.
I think they're
I
doing better for sure.
Yeah, when they get done with this Ukraine Crimea or Ukraine Russian scrap, we're running
Right.
daily reports on that.
Yes.
Um, when they get done with that and we can travel there again, I'd like to go back because beautiful country, beautiful country.
Speaking of going back, let's go back in time again and finish these pictures. I got
Okay,
you on a
sorry.
rabbit trail.
I got
No, no,
yeah, I got
it
Gabby.
wasn't you.
That's the
Let's
Irish
see.
in me. I talk a lot.
Let me take you to. We got just a couple more. Let me take you to 15. What is this? Where is Hummel Island at?
Huemel,
Weymouth.
Huemul. Yeah, good luck trying to translate it. Okay, the Third Reich did not die in 1945 when the war ended. It just moved south. these are German scientists. Okay, they're Austrian, but bloodline they're German. Uh, on the island of Huimul in Lake Nahuelhuapi, only a hop from San Carlos de Bariloche. These scientists convinced Perón to open the checkbook, and they built a huge, big nuclear research laboratory on this island near Bariloche. And a huge thing, they were trying to achieve cold fusion, which nobody has ever done. Yeah, this is it. It was abandoned in the early 50s when, whatever reason, uh, Perón slammed the checkbook shut. We've got evidence showing that they really did achieve cold fusion. However, the previous director of their atomic program there, not a German guy, but an Austrian, I'm sorry, an Argentine guy, uh, is a friend of mine. And he said, no, absolutely, they did not achieve cold fusion. And the reason, yeah, you can see the lake in the background there. The reason Perron slammed the checkbook shut is he finally realized or assumed or whatever that Dr. Richter, who was in charge here,
Hmm.
was just siphoning as much out of his
Oh,
bankroll as he could. So, well, good. Answer the
Dr. Richter. So he was
yeah.
getting paid, but clearly they'd gotten involved in nuclear research and got so far with it.
That's absolutely correct. And when we go down there this November, we're going to go to this island and just walk around and look and take pictures. Unfortunately, now it's not as clean. Yeah, that's the reactor building. For some reason, it's blown up. Nothing else got blown up, but the reactor building is blown up. Uh, but it had been controlled by the prefectura, which is their version of the Coast Guard, and I'm still well, I was a Coast Guard auxiliary flotilla commander here, and I had my hat, and so
Yes.
oh yeah, welcome and everything. But some years ago, the prefectura walked away, and the place is heavily overgrown with all sorts of plants and stickers and stuff. So
Oh.
we're going there, but it's not an open pathway. You got to tromp through all the weeds.
Now, is that on the way to getting to San Bariloche?
That's offshore of San Carlos de Bariloche, right? That's
Okay.
about half a mile offshore in that
How
lake, Nahuelhuapi.
how will you get there? Will you have to go by boat to get to
Yes,
the island? Okay.
yes, definitely. We got a boat arranged already.
It's amazing. Folks, if you're just joining us, we're live with Harry Cooper. We're talking a little bit about two of his books tonight. He's got one that you can get. It's called Space: The Final Frontier: Secrets NASA Does Not Want You to Know, from an insider who worked there, Clark McClellan. He's since passed away, but not before he was able to get the information to Brother Harry and put this book out. You want to get this book if you're interested in the true story of NASA, if you're interested in the subject of UFOs, space shuttle missions, etc. And then back to the very first book that started it all, Hitler in Argentina. This is one book. It's a part of a trilogy. Is that right?
Actually, there are four books now. Hitler
Four
in
books.
Argentina
Okay.
tells how he escaped. Hitler and the Secret Alliance tells how thousands escaped. And we went to their homes and we took pictures of their homes. And the addresses, the photos are in that book. Then there's Hitler's spy web in South America, with the title tells you what it is. And then the last one is the plan to rescue Hitler. It was not a spur of the moment. Not only Hitler, but all the industrialists and big money men, bankers, had meetings at the Hotel Maison Rouge in middle 1943 to start planning how they saw that the war was going to go badly for Germany. They were making plans to get their families, their fortunes, and everything else out of the country to South America, primarily Argentina, because there's
Now,
such a huge German presence in Argentina and also Italian.
okay, so in addition to Argentina, what other parts of the world did some of the Third Reich flee to? They got into Brazil also?
Yeah, Chile was another big one,
Chile.
and yeah, and we've in 1990, I think it was, we were watching the news on television where uh, General Pinochet had overthrown Allende to be the head of the uh, Chilean government,
Yes.
and we're watching it on television. They had a victory parade, and the camera was behind Pinochet's shoulder here, scanning past him as the guys are marching, and he's with his salute. And I told my wife, I said, look at these guys. If those uniforms were black, you'd think it was Munich in 1935. They're the exact same thing. And
Right.
she said, look at Pinochet's cuff. He had a big cuff with the German oak leaves all around the edge. And right in the middle of the cuff was the Sigrun SS. I saw it myself.
Wow.
And even today,
Pinochet.
yeah, Pinochet. And there was a place there called Colonia Dignidad, which
Oh,
was
yeah.
a
Right.
right. And I was going to try to get there, but unfortunately, it fell apart before I had a chance to get there. Uh, Uruguay, not quite so heavily Third Reich, but there was still plenty there. I was
Okay.
in a little town in Uruguay where this guy had written a book about the Germans in his little town, and he put a swastika into the uh, cornerstone of the statue in the town square
In Uruguay?
in Uruguay.
Oh,
There was
that's
another,
interesting. Great.
yeah, there,
Wow.
and we went to another hotel in Uruguay, way out in the middle of no damn place, and it looked like something you'd see in a Wild West movie, kind
Oh,
of run down, and but it was a hotel with about 40 rooms. We went inside. There weren't any people there, no customers. It was run by a woman and her mother. So Martine, my guide, told the ladies what we were looking for. Oh, okay. Move that sofa out of the lobby and see that shag rug? Move that shag rug. There was a trap door. And
whoa.
they had tunnels and bunkers under that hotel.
Holy cow. Did you get to see those?
We went down in them.
Amazing. In
And there
Uruguay.
was, yeah, in Paraguay. There
I'm
was
sorry,
another place.
Paraguay. Excuse me.
No, that was Uruguay. That was in
Uruguay.
Uruguay.
That
We
had the
went to
bunkers.
Yeah, and we went to
What?
another one in Paraguay.
Amazing.
A
Amazing.
big house, whatever, or whatever the heck it was, and they had a Roman atrium, a big atrium about probably 80, 90 feet across by about 100 feet long, and in between each of the pillars holding up whatever, there was a full-size picture of German troops in combat in Stalingrad. That one had 3 bunkers underneath it.
In Uruguay.
Yeah,
This is new
but that one
information to
was
me.
in
I had no
Paraguay. The
idea.
first one was
Uh,
Uruguay.
Okay, Uruguay, amazing. I knew
Yeah.
there was stuff in Paraguay. I didn't know Uruguay. And of course, go ahead.
We were also in a home, private home, that had been rented out by Martin Bormann
Oh,
shortly
wow.
after the war because he
Okay.
had to marry his sister in law. His brother apparently died or got killed, whatever, and
Okay.
he had to marry his sister in law for the financial reasons, whatever. And the owner of the house told us all about how Borman rented the house for about a month, married his sister in law. There's more Third Reich history in South America than there is in Europe.
This is amazing. Now, what about Chile? Have you taken any patrols there?
Uh, the one time some years ago, I think it was in the late 90s, we were in Bariloche, which is Argentina, but we went across the border just into Chile because there's another ultra plush hotel there, like
Okay.
there is by Bariloche, and
Yes.
they had meetings there. We got pictures of them with the swastika flags and the pictures of Adolf Hitler there all the way up to about 1995.
Amazing history
And
over there.
and this one in near Bariloche,
Mm.
it's called Shao Shao. L
Shao
L
Shao.
A O dash L L A O. How you get Shao Shao out of that, I don't know, but that's what
Right.
they say. Uh, it was built in 1938 with German money, and it was only about 40, 50 kilometers from where Hitler lived from 1945 to 1955.
Yes.
Okay, what American president was there during his time in office? Dwight Eisenhower was there.
Oh.
Bill Clinton was there. Uh, Barry Barack Obama was
Satoro.
there. Yeah, Barry Soetoro and his
Barack Hussein Obama.
yeah, and then what's his name? Well,
Bush.
Eisenhower, Clinton. No, Eisenhower, Clinton, Obama, and Carter.
Carter. Amazing. What are they doing
He,
there?
yeah, what were they doing there? Also, uh, John Kerry was there during his time as Secretary of State. Magnificent hotel. You can't say enough about it, but there are great hotels in other places. Why go to an area 700 miles southwest of Buenos Aires? We have been told by a guy who's currently active spook for Germany, but I'll tell you that off the
Oh,
air.
I want to hear that.
Yeah,
This
what
is
they were doing.
amazing stuff. Now, for those that are tuning in and want an answer to the $1 million question, what happens to Hitler after 1955? How much longer does he last? What's his official death date? He died, what, about a year later?
Well, the
56?
official death date is the 30th of April, 1945, but we know that's not true.
Right.
He died on 13 February 1962
Oh, 62.
on a
Okay.
plantation in Bolivia. One of
Bolivia.
our yeah, one of our
Okay.
members, a guy who goes by the name of Michael Lehman, which is not his real name, his dad was high up in the German military, and his mother was good friends with Magda Goebbels and with Eva Braun. But Magda and Eva were not friends because Hitler, how do I say this politely? Hitler was banging Magda. And
Kurt Goebbels'
one,
wife.
yeah,
Okay.
and Goebbels had it in his diary that he knew Hitler was banging Magda, but what are you going to do? How you gonna how you gonna confront Hitler?
Now, who do you
And
think instigated it? You think it was Hitler, or did Magna, was she looking to climb the ranks?
I don't know. She was not a real attractive woman, but she was
Okay.
the heiress to the BMW fortune. I think BMW.
Oh.
I think it was BMW, and one of their children holding it was fathered by Hitler.
Hmm.
And so, anyhow, not to get that's another whole 20-minute long story.
Because she lived, and you,
Holdina lived and
Holdina
was
lived.
down in South America, and
Yes.
anybody can call here or send an email, SharkHunters at sharkhunters.com. We'll answer the questions. But anyhow,
Yes.
uh, when when they when the war ended, they were in Berlin. His father disappeared. We don't know what happened. He was about 5 years old. His mother took him and went to their plantation in Bolivia. And he was living on that plantation. And when he was a teenager, he got thrown from his horse, knocked out. His arm was broken. When he woke up in his bed, it was Dr. Mengele who was setting the broken arm.
Uh-oh.
Later on, in 1962, on the 15th of January, which was this guy's birthday, Michael Lehman, we have his real name. Uh, he remembers they all had to assemble on the driveway because Hitler came there 15th of January, 1962, and they rolled him in a wheelchair. He was in pretty rough shape, and everybody had to give the so-called Hitler Gruß. He had come there to visit with the manager of that plantation, who was um, what
This is
Verdeman. I got it
in
on my desk.
Bolivia? Are we talking Bolivia?
And yes, Bolivia.
Okay.
Uh, Verdeman. What the hell was Verdeman's first name? Anyhow, Verdeman was Hitler's commanding officer in World War One, and Hitler had to see him for whatever reason. So he was there for a few hours, got back in the car, and drove back to the other plantation where he lived, Fritz Verdeman.
Okay.
And that was 15 January. And then a month later, on 13 February, he died.
Wow. Is there any chance of seeing the plantation? Do you know the location? Have you ever thought about going out there to visit it?
Yeah, but it's kind of like pulling teeth to get anything out of this guy, Michael Lehman. He's been living in this country for decades, no papers, no
Okay.
visible support, so we don't know who's keeping him going. Sorry,
But
but
he would know the location, and
yeah, he would.
this is amazing.
I'd be happy to go there, but what are you going to find now?
So, absolutely. So when Hitler died, did they give him a funeral? They bury him? They cremate him? I've heard two stories. I've heard that he was buried and cremated. What do you think the truth is?
What's the weather like there in Bali?
Well, not asking you the location, of course.
I know exactly what happened to him, and I know exactly where he is.
Okay. But is he in the Antarctic in an ice cave?
No,
Okay.
Antarctica is
We
its
can
own
rule that
little
one out.
weirdness. Yeah, I know people think that, but no, he's not in Antarctica. Uh,
Was he taken to the moon?
no, not
Okay.
not to the moon. He's
There's been some
uh,
sci-fi movies.
in a large kind of mausoleum inside a mountain
Hmm.
with 12 black marble pillars all around him, because 12 was a very important number to them. And each marble column has a large solid gold eagle on it, 40 tons, that came over in Operation Valkyrie,
Wow.
Valkyrie 2, not the one where Tom Cruise tried to blow Hitler up.
Sure.
But uh, it was, when I learned about this 20 years ago, it was guarded by the sons of the SS, Hitler's personal bodyguards. And now I'm told it's
Wow.
guarded by the grandsons of the SS. And I was
Sure.
given the password if I go there, but I'm not up for mountain climbing, and I'm not sure the password is good anymore. And the guy who gave it to me was my best agent, a guy we call Pizarro, and he died suddenly and suspiciously about 15 years ago.
Amazing. Absolutely. And he was going to send some information to you, wasn't he? Or was that
Oh,
another
he
guy?
was sending information all the time. We got so much
Yeah.
from Pizarro. The guy was an
Yes.
incredible researcher, and his dad died in the U-boats. So
That's amazing.
yeah, 1995, he founded something called the uh, a research group, the Delta Research Group, and it gave us so much information, backed up with fact.
What you've investigated so much. What is on your bucket list, if we can say that? What do you want to go over there and check out and study that you have not already? Like one
And
of my, I've got some bucket list items I want to do. I want to get over to Mount Sinai,
Okay.
climb the
Good
mountain
luck.
of God over
You're
in
going
Saudi
to get
Arabia.
shot if you go over there now. My
wanna
biggest
go
thing
over
on
there.
my bucket list is not dying, but we know there was no combat whatsoever off the shores
Yes.
of Argentina during World War II.
Right.
But there are at least 6 U-boats we know that are sunk in Argentine waters, in shallow waters. We've got pictures of them. You've seen them.
Right.
We've sent some of the pictures. What were they doing there? They were not sunk in combat. They were scuttled by their crew. Aha. Who came
Absolutely.
ashore? A lot of-
Exactly.
and that's in a lot of our books. We've got
And what
eyewitness
came ashore?
reports. Yeah, and what came ashore. We've got eyewitness accounts in some of these books in the Hitler uh, group. Eyewitnesses. I mean, police. People who are telling the truth. They've seen rafts, rubber rafts coming ashore, people flashing signals back and forth to the U-boats.
And
And
they've got, is it the Graf Spree? What is that big eagle that's sitting
oh
down there
yeah, the
that they
Graf
don't want to
Spee.
show?
Yeah, they scuttled the Graf Spee, and the Uruguayan Navy brought up all sorts of stuff. Well, a private guy brought it up, and I was there a few years ago. And no, 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 it's in the headquarters. Nobody is allowed. And then I showed him my Coast Guard auxiliary credential. Oh, yeah, come on in. You can see everything, the guns, not the big guns, but the anti aircraft guns, the
Yes.
range finders, everything, but not that Eagle. So
Now, with
where's
the
the
Graf
Eagle?
Spree, was that a
Graf
U-boat?
Spee, SPEE. No, it was a battle cruiser.
Oh, battle cruiser. What's the big deal? Why don't they want to show it?
Exactly. But
Right?
where is it? It's in its own building under armed guard. We tried, even a friend of ours who was a Uruguayan Navy SEAL tried to get us permit to go in and just look at the damn thing. Oh no. Every once in a while, the Uruguayan government decides to auction it off to the highest bidder and take half the money and give it to the guy who spent all the money bringing
Retrieving.
it back up. But then you got on the one side the Jewish community is screaming, "Oh no, it's going to be used by the Nazis for a shrine," and on the other side, people are saying, "No, it's history; it can't be." And so somebody decided, let's melt it down and create a dove of peace. What stupidity! So
Oh
it's
my
still
goodness.
locked up. It ain't going nowheres anytime soon.
Well, now that's one that's hard to get to. And then what about the actual plane that Hitler flew? Do you think that exists?
I
Flew
was
over
told
to
that it landed in
Uruguay?
Paraguay. I was told by our friend who is still active in the German spookery that it went to um, a private estate. It flew until 1966, and it was at a private estate in northern Paraguay. I said, "Good. Tell me where it's at. I don't have any trouble, babbling something weird to a cop if I get stopped." He says, "No, no. It's a private estate. The guards have orders to shoot to kill." I said, "Oh,
Amazing.
I
That's
can't."
like the ultimate collector's museum.
Yeah, I said, "I can't talk my way out of that."
I bet the dude over there in England who's got all those relics, I bet he'd like to get his hands on
What a schmuck!
it. We
He
can't even
was
get
a
him to do a
member.
program.
Yeah, he was a member of SharkHunters, and I met him. He made his money the old-fashioned way. Waited for Dad to die.
Now, there's another collector out there. His name is, I think he's called the Dragon Man. He's a gun dealer in America. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's got a massive collection from the various wars. And he's got a section on World War II, and he's got some pretty cool stuff. He apparently has a lot of liquid cash, so he's been buying stuff for decades. But you can watch
That's
him.
what
If
it
you haven't
takes.
seen it, I'll send you the video, and he does a little tour.
Good.
And he's got one of the belt buckles that he said he was told was issued to Hitler's private bodyguard detail.
Oh, okay.
And they have it's a belt buckle that's got a revolver built into it.
Oh,
So
yeah,
you-
where you press
you-
down on it, pops out.
He's apparently got serial number 001.
Okay. Is it a revolver? I thought it was just a two-barrel Derringer.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, you're correct.
Yeah. I've
Two-barrel
seen pictures
Derringer.
of
It would blow your balls right off.
Ow. I don't think I'd like
I
that.
wouldn't want that thing firing at me. How we got that, I don't know. I forget, but I think someone in here, they didn't know what they had, and anyway, he was playing around with it. Boom, the thing popped open. He was like, "Oh, what is this?" He's got
Let's hope it ain't
cyanide
loaded.
capsules. He's got an actual cyanide capsule. He said, "Watch this," and it's engineered where he just turns it upside down, and the little vial pops out. It's
Yeah.
manufactured so well. He's got all kinds of stuff over there.
Yeah.
Uniforms,
All it takes
galore.
is money.
Yeah, I think one of each of the vehicles and guns is pretty cool. You know, I like memorabilia. But of course, today, you know, you don't know if you're getting the real stuff or not when you're buying the lower price stuff like metals and.
There was a guy I knew. He was member number 15 of Shark Hunters. We're up to almost 8,900 now, but
Wow.
minus about 75% who've passed away. But anyhow,
Okay.
this guy sold Hydrix, Reinhard Hydrix, walking out uniform is Class A to
Wow.
somebody for 50 grand. This was like 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And then, the guy found out it was a fake.
Oh man.
Yeah. So, uh, and this guy who sold it told me that almost everything he was selling was fake. So the
That's
guy who
sad.
bought the fake went to the FBI and they swore out warrants for this guy. And he also went to the mustaches and put a contract
Okay.
on this guy.
Uh-oh.
And one day he just disappeared.
He's swimming with the fishes.
Yep. Him
In
and
all
Luca
likelihood.
Brasi.
Oh my goodness. So tell me about the upcoming patrol. Where are you going next, Harry?
We're going to Argentina.
Yes.
And your people can send me an email, sharkhunters@sharkhunters.com. And we're going to Argentina the 1st of November for 2 weeks. The first week is in Buenos Aires to all sorts of places, especially the ABC restaurant, which is where those guys used to hang out all the time. Bormann, Eichmann, Mengele.
Wow.
And then we also will dine in the German club up on top of one of the highest skyscrapers in Buenos Aires. Nobody there speaks German, though. What the hell? So we're going to see things that were pertaining to the Third Reich that week. And also we're going to have dinner at Tortoni's, the oldest tango nightclub in I think your producer is telling you to get off the air.
She hit the wrong switch. She put me in the dark.
Oh, okay. In the oldest tango nightclub in the world, where we sit, and every time we're there, and it better be this way again, Martine, our tables are right up against the stage. We can look, 5 feet away, and there's the dancers. So then we're going to take a plane from there to Bariloche and stay in. It's still loaded with Germans in Bariloche. The
Amazing.
ski club, that was the spy organization, et
Yes.
cetera. So we'll be there 2 weeks. We're going to go to Inalco, which is Hitler's home, but we can't
Oh,
go
wow.
ashore. We're
Okay.
just going to sit offshore about 20 feet, and everybody take pictures. And I happen
Amazing.
to have a drone that will go up
Oh,
and take
yes.
pictures. It's sitting here on the floor right beside my desk. And then we're also going to go on to, very similar.
It still
also
works.
gonna-
We got to
yeah,
use them.
and mine's right there. And we're also going to go onto that island, Huaimul Island. We can go onto it and walk around, take pictures. And then and one of my weaknesses in Bariloche, they got 3 large restaurants that are all chocolatiers. Oh God,
Oh,
the
my
chocolate
goodness.
is awesome. My blood sugar goes up.
How long will
I-
you be in Argentina on that trip?
2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Okay,
1
2
week in
weeks.
Buenos Aires, one in the Bariloche area, and then back to Buenos Aires for a night and then home.
So how do people participate in it? Will they arrange for their own airfare and meet you down at a point?
Right, that's correct. We used
Okay.
to include airfare in the early days, but that means, and I'd have to add it in, because I'm not
Sure.
that generous. And you had to meet at like JFK. So if you lived in Germany and wanted to go on a German trip, why would you come to JFK and go
True.
on your own dollar? Or if you're in California, you got to pay to get to JFK. So,
Right.
and then we get somebody saying, well, I got 300 million frequent flyer miles, so I can fly for free. How much discount? So I say, no, that's it. You get yourself to Buenos Aires,
Yes.
and then we'll give you directions on how to get to the hotel. Once you get to the hotel, you're on board forever, and it covers all your ground transportation, plus air from Buenos Aires to Bariloche, all your breakfasts, and entry to everything.
Oh, that's going to be fantastic. Do you have any slots still available on this tour?
Yeah, we've got about 5 slots still open.
Okay. How do people contact you if they want to get itinerary and like to sign up for that?
Send me an email, SharkHunters@SharkHunters.com. Bingo.
That's easy. Now, tell us about Shark Hunters magazine
Okay.
and
Well, you've
becoming
been
a
a
member
member
of Shark
for
Hunters.
yeah,
Yes.
you've been a member forever, and we send out an email magazine, 36 pages, information on various U-boats, information on some of the things we're finding, and information you're not going to get anywhere else. Send me an email, SharkHunters@SharkHunters.com, and I'll send you the current issue, no charge, by email. And then if you like it, sign up. If you don't like it, okay.
Folks, this is fascinating. We're learning things that we never were told that happened. The true story you can find at Shark Hunters. Go to sharkhunters.com, sign up. Are you still offering people that would like a copy of one of your magazines to see what they can expect? Is there a way they can contact you for a complimentary copy?
Right. As I say, just send me an email, SharkHunters@SharkHunters.com. Say you want to see the magazine, send you the current issue, which you just got the newest one yesterday.
Yes. I'm looking forward to reading it because these are not skimpy, folks. I mean, they're packed full of photos and articles and true information. Once again,
Right
Harry's
from the
got
veterans.
from the veterans. Once again, there's 2 books you want to pick up. Space, the Final Frontier by Clark McClellan, NASA Insider, and also get the first of the series, Hitler in Argentina. This started it all. True documented truth of Hitler's escape from Berlin. Fascinating stuff, and there's much more where this comes from. Harry, where do people go to find out about your other books? What's your website? SharkHunters.com, right?
That's correct, SharkHunters.com, and then in the upper margin, you'll see a lot of options. One says Shop. Hover on that, and you'll get various different things, and you click on the one that says Books. You're off and running.
Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in today. If you're coming in late, this will be available immediately up on the live tab. Harry, I'll be sending you a copy so you can put it up to the network.
Yep.
And if someone would like to email you, what's the best way to do that?
Send an email, SharkHunters@SharkHunters.com. I'll get it, and I'll answer it within a few hours.
When are you going to be on Jeff Rentz's show again? What's your next date?
The first Wednesday of the month, so that would make it a week from tomorrow.
Go to Rentz.com. Harry has been doing shows with Jeff for decades, and there's much more where this show left off that Harry's going to cover on his next broadcast. So encourage you to get over there, say hello to Jeff Rentz for me. And Harry, thank you again to your wife and family that loaned you to us for a few hours, and we'll let you get back to work. And I think you got an appointment up there to sit on the front row somewhere, right?
Yeah, I'm going to the county commission meeting because the last one 2 weeks ago, it got crazy and 2 guys got in a fist fight and the sheriff had to drag one out. What a goat rodeo for a county commission. So I'm going in there. I want to sit on the front row and watch what's going on.
We'll see you next time, Harry. God bless you, brother. Thank you for coming on.
Roger that. Thanks, pal.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. I hope you all enjoyed the program. It is now past midnight here in Bali, Indonesia. I'm fixing to hit the sack maybe in about an hour. I ate too much hot fudge, so maybe I'm wired right now. But we got to get up early, do a show in a few hours. We'll be back tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern. Let me see what we've got actually running tonight. I'm not even sure. So you can look at the schedule, or if you get on my email blast, I got to get a fly swatter out. Here, the Indonesians leave the doors open. I have to get on them, close the door because flies get in. I've got to go hunt me a fly. It's trying to bite me in the leg. Okay, let me see. What is the date today? Here we go. Okay, so we're going to have Lou Young at 7 o'clock. Then we're going to be back at 9 o'clock Eastern with Sabrina Sessions. And Deborah Vels at 10. And then we've got another early bird show tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern with Jim Croft. Then we're going to be back in the evening. 3 more shows. So we've got a lot going on for you this week. If you want to follow the work that we're doing here, go to omegamanradio.com and make sure you get on my Substack. ShannonRayDavis.substack.com. God bless you all, folks. We'll see you next time.